Hi everyone and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Rosana and today we are making authentic red pork tamales. These are a celebration of flavor and they bring the entire family together. Let me show you how to make them. Red pork tamales is one of the most popular kind of tamal out there. The pork is what's gonna take the longest to cook, but it will literally flavor your entire tamal, so let's make it with love. What I have here is 2 pounds of boneless pork shoulder, bust and butt. Go ahead and cut it into medium-sized pieces. We're going to cook it nice and slow. As a result, the meat will benefit greatly, and by the time we are done, this pork will be fork tender. Place a large pot over medium heat and add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and allow it to get nice and hot. Then add 1/4 of a medium white onion sliced into 3 wedges and saute until slightly softened. As soon as they are done, remove and turn the heat to medium-high because we need to brown the meat. Once the oil is nice and hot, add in the meat and avoid turning until the side touching the oil has a nice golden brown color. Turn on all sides and let them become a golden brown color as well. Next, add in 10 cups of water and aromatics, starting with 4 garlic cloves, half a teaspoon of whole black peppercorns, half a teaspoon of dry oregano, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, half a medium white onion, and 2 bay leaves. Let it reach a boil, then lower to medium-low heat and wait for it to reach a gentle simmer. Cover and let it cook for roughly 2 to 2.5 hours or until fork tender. Meanwhile, let's jump to our next task, the dry red chilies. Go ahead and remove the seeds of 8 dry chiles guajillos, and we have used them plenty of times, and it's one you should keep in stock because it is widely used in Mexican cuisine. Also remove the seeds of 2 dry ancho chiles. Ancho chiles have a smoky, fruity flavor and mild to medium in heat. The heat content can vary depending on the chili, but for the most part, they are not too spicy. Once that's done, place a comal or cast iron skillet over low heat. When nice and hot, toast all the red dried chilies and turn on all sides just until they release their fragrance. Remember, if they burn, it ruins the salsa by making it extremely bitter, in which case you'd have to grab another batch and start over. Additionally, I will be adding 4 dried chiles de árbol because I want a kick of heat. Don't worry, they won't be too spicy. Know that you can omit the chiles de árbol if you don't want that extra kick of heat, or you could even add more if you like them really spicy. When lightly toasted, also remove from the heat. Rinse and drain all the chilies and set to the side until we need them. Fast forward, it's now been 2 hours. Let's check on the meat. And there it is, that simmer is just perfect. The broth has taken a gorgeous color and the meat is fork tender. Transfer it to a heat-proof container. I'm even having a hard time transferring it because it literally falls apart when I grab it. Let me show you, see? It doesn't take much for it to shred apart. Now strain the broth and reserve because we will need it later. And while the broth is still hot, measure out 2 cups and pour over the chilies to rehydrate and soften them. It will take about 5 minutes. You can submerge them into the broth if needed. Okay, you saw how tender the meat is. This means we won't have any issue shredding it. Go ahead and shred the entire pork with 2 forks. It should be easy to pull apart. Okay, this coming step is optional, but I recommend it 100% if you have a molcajete. But in case you don't have one, it's totally fine. Omit the step for now and I will let you know when to incorporate these ingredients. What we're doing here is creating a paste with 2 fresh garlic cloves, half a teaspoon of whole cumin, and half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Mash and blend with the pestle until it turns into a smooth paste. This looks great. Now add 2 tablespoons of water and with the pestle work it in to loosen the paste. It looks awesome. As a side note, if you have been thinking about getting a molcajete, I will leave you the link to this one in the notes. It is worth it. And now transfer the paste to a different container. This blender will be making the star of the show, the tasty, delicious, marvelous, famous red sauce. I feel like this is a red carpet moment, or maybe I'm getting sidetracked. So let's focus. Let's transfer the hydrated chilies to the blender together with the broth, the sautéed onions. Remember the ones we did before browning the pork? Yes, those. Add them right in there, and if you don't have a molcajete, this is the time you would add the garlic, cumin, and salt. But not the water. The water helped us loosen the paste, and that's it. Blend until smooth and completely broken down. When the sauce looks good to go, place a large pot over medium-low heat and add in 1 tablespoon of olive oil. When hot, carefully pour in the salsa and stir. Pour in an additional cup of the broth to the blender and slightly swirl it in to get the last bit of sauce, and pour into the pot as well. This looks so good. Now I'm going to add the cumin garlic paste in and mix to combine one more time. Allow it to gently simmer for about 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes, add in the meat and mix to combine until the pork is completely coated. Add salt to taste. I'm mixing in 3/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. At this point, just let the meat reheat and then remove the pot from the heat. The filling is ready. Now let's make the dough, the glorious dough. In a large bowl, place 1 cup of well-packed lard and half a cup of well-packed vegetable shortening. Go ahead and whisk well until smooth, nice and creamy. It will take roughly 3 minutes. In a separate bowl, combine 6 cups of instant corn masa, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, and whisk to combine or mix by hand. By the way, I will leave the link to the instant masa I use in the notes. Next, add in half of the masa into the lard and mix it in by hand. When incorporated, add in the remainder of the masa and continue to mix. You will end up with a crumbly consistency like this. Finally, pour in about 3 2/3 cup of the broth gradually in separate additions. Wait until the first amount is fully incorporated and then proceed with the next amount, and so on until you reach the desired consistency. The amount of broth you will need can vary. This is why I'll show you what the end result needs to look like. Here it is. The masa is ready when it feels very soft but will not stick to your clean hands, and watch how easy it is for me to insert my fingers. They glide through. Additionally, it is easy to spread and mold. Before moving on to the next step, cover the dough with a kitchen towel. And here we have the corn husk. You can't have tamales without them. The corn husk shapes, keeps the tamal moist, and allows them to cook perfectly. Before using, sort through them and pick out about 32 good-looking husks, medium to large in size, and discard the ones with dark spots. Submerge them in water to clean them well, then rinse as a final step and transfer to a container. Tamales are beautifully shaped. This is how you make them. Take a corn husk and place on the palm of your hand, then take some of the dough, just enough to spread across, and stop before you reach the edge of the leaf, leaving some space between the dough and both ends of the husk. When spreading towards the narrow top, stop a little over midway and also leave some space at the bottom wide end. When finished, it will end up being a little over 1/8 of an inch in thickness, just so you have an idea. Then place a generous amount of the pork filling in the center. You want to add a generous amount, but also keep in mind we want to be able to close it, so make sure it's not too much. Now take one end from across and fold over, then gently press to secure both ends and peel the husk away. Now fold towards the opposite side, press lightly, tuck the husk, and wrap the tamal like so. Lastly, feel where the masa stops on the narrow top part and fold downward. The top is now closed. You can lightly pinch the bottom and close it as well. Another way to enclose both the top and bottom is to do so when you make the first fold over the filling. At this point, you can lightly press to secure them and resume folding as previously shown. Sometimes you may end up with a small husk not large enough to wrap a tamal. You can keep them to cover the tamales during the cooking process, or if you feel adventurous, let me show you how to make them work. Simply overlap two of them like so in shape as explained previously. It may feel a bit challenging, but it's a great way to keep practicing. Next, we need to cook them, and you will need a steamer pot with the base at the bottom to keep the tamales away from the water. Pour in 1 inch of water, and while it reaches a boil, you can start arranging the tamales. Be careful not to burn yourself. At the bottom, arrange 3 tamales with the open side facing the center. Then lay the rest with the open side facing up in the empty spaces and all around where they fit best. Once the water is boiling and all of them are in the pot, cover with the remainder of the husk like so. This is why we prepped 32 leaves but only made 23 tamales. Now cover with a plastic bag and carefully tuck. Finally, place the lid over the pot. Allow them to cook over medium heat for approximately 50 minutes to an hour or until completely cooked. During this time, you may need to add more water to the bottom of the pot if running low. To test if they're done, carefully remove one from the steamer. The dough will be completely cooked, and when you remove the husk, it will release easily even though they will still feel soft. Allow it to rest for a few minutes and it will firm up a bit more. This one right here is nice and firm. There's no more waiting time. We can enjoy. Let me tell you, the filling is packed in flavor and melt in your mouth tender. The dough feels soft, also flavorful, and wrapped beautifully. Now you can make them at home and show them off to everyone you know. I'm super excited. We need to taste. All right, that's how excited I am. Can you guess? Of course. These are delicious. Perfect. I really hope you try these because everybody's gonna love you for them. And then you can tell them you learned how to make them with me at Villa Cocina. Share the love. All right, I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and click the notification bell. You can also follow me in all of my social media platforms. Until the next one.